Hello, my name is David Shephard. I'd like to personally welcome you to my introduction to Ether CD. So how do I come to be teaching this thing that sounds quite weird, Ether? Well, in 1990, I left my career in information technology in the city to start out on a quest of personal development and personal empowerment. One of the first things that I came across in that journey was something called neurolinguistic programming, which is something you can find out about on one of my other introduction CDs. And in 1993, I decided that I really needed to train properly in NLP, so I flew to California to do an NLP practitioner training. Now, one morning, there was an extra session. And it was an extra session on something called a Hawaiian huna, which I'd never heard of before. And as I sat there, the trainer opened the session with an ancient Hawaiian chant, which we know is at least 750 years old, though if the rumors are true, it could be as old as 35,000 years old. And I had a very strange experience, one I couldn't explain at the time. Because what I experienced was, even though I'd never heard the chant before, I knew the next words that the trainer was going to chant. And every single hair on my entire body stood on end. And I felt energy shifting around in my body like I'd never felt before. And at that moment in time, I thought, I need to find out more about this stuff. So I started flying out to Hawaii to learn huna, which for me was a dream come true because as a kid I was an Elvis fan and watched all the Elvis movies, and several of them, as probably you know, are set in Hawaii. And I dreamed of being able to go to Hawaii one day. And over the next 10 years, I flew to Hawaii probably 3 times a year. And after several years of studying huna, the people who ran the trainings out in Hawaii actually asked me to start teaching Hawaiian huna for them, which for me just seemed like a really strange thing. You know, this kid from Mansfield winds up teaching Hawaiian huna in Hawaii. How bizarre is that? I just couldn't believe where I got myself to. And through studying Hawaiian huna, I got interested in other esoteric, spiritual, and magical systems. In fact, now I hold a doctorate in esoteric studies. And through doing that doctorate, I studied the Tantric tradition from India, the Taoist tradition from China, some of the Aborigine traditions, the Maori traditions, the Hermetic traditions from Egypt and Greece, the pagan and Wiccan tradition from Western Europe, also the Western mystery tradition, and also many of the shamanic traditions that are around the planet. And one of the things I discovered from that was that no matter where in the world you go, there was once a magical, spiritual, esoteric system. And when you looked below the surface, it appeared that in actual fact, they were all saying the same thing, just certain names or words had been changed. Which started to have me think that maybe at one point in time, way back in the past, there was just one magical, spiritual, esoteric teaching on the planet. Now, there appeared to be, around about probably 700, 800 AD, an agenda to wipe out those teachings from the planet. An agenda to stop people like me and you from knowing this stuff. I believe now is the time for people to be able to reclaim their birthright and to discover their place in the universe, who they really are, and how the universe works, and what your personal place is in it. Which is why I decided to create a new esoteric, magical, spiritual training program. But then I thought, what shall I call it? Because I can't call it huna because it's not huna. I can't call it tantra because it's not tantra, even though it is. It's all of those things combined. And I was thinking, what shall I call these new training programs I'm going to put out? And then a word came to me. Ether. And literally, it came to me out of the ether, which you've probably heard people say before. You may even have heard people say it disappeared into the ether. So the trainings are called ether. Now, the word ether has been around for a long time, and actually it refers to the spirit energy in the universe. But it also started to appear in modern-day science. You'll find it mentioned in the work of Tesla, of Maxwell, of Hertz. And in actual fact, they believed that there must be this electromagnetic medium in the universe, which they called the ether, which enabled radio waves to travel across the universe. Even today, in the study of quantum physics, you'll find people referring to the ether. And the ether being something which is absolutely everywhere, pervasive in the universe. Yet, when you go looking for it, you can never find it. But it does have to be there. And that was why I decided to call our trainings the ether trainings. Now, the way that we train this material in those trainings is quite different than it would have been taught traditionally. See, traditionally, you may have studied any of these particular disciplines for years upon years upon years upon years before really getting any tangible results. Now, if you are anything like me, you haven't got years and years and years and years to do it. You want to get a result really quickly. I find today that if somebody's going to learn something, they want to be able to do something tangible with it very quickly. Let's say even within hours. And to do that, we need to teach the material in a different way. On our ether trainings, we use modern-day mind technologies like NLP, we use hypnosis, we use things like timeline therapy, and we also use modern technology to enable people to achieve altered states of mind, which is really what spiritual development is all about. So whereas traditionally it might have taken 5, 6, 7 years to get some real tangible experiences of spiritual development, we can actually enable people to get experiences within a matter of hours and major experiences within a matter of days.